What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Scott Talk. Tonight is Couch Potato Movie Review Flint Town, a Netflix original series, 8 episodes. I watched them all in order. This is my synopsis as someone born and raised in Flint. My mom was a Flint police officer for 25 years. She retired on the force. She walked foot patrol with this nightstick, a revolver, prayers. They have like some mace on their tool belt and some bullets. And as her child, well, as her children, because I have three sisters, we never truly feared that my mom would not come home. Growing up in Flint was actually very fun. It's nothing like what you see in this documentary, but this is Flint now. I was born in 1978 at Hurley Hospital in March, and I can say that my childhood, my adolescence, my high school years, there were arduous times. And no matter where you grow up, there are going to be some times. But the city was not dead. It was not decaying. It was not ran down. It was not abandoned. It was not unpoliced. It was not dying as Flint Town projects. And I'm not. I haven't even went into my review. I'm not giving anything negative about the review, but I think that for the millions and millions and millions and millions of Netflix account holders who have never been to Flint, who've heard of Flint, of course, but who have never been to Flint, the imagery in this series is the imagery that you believe Flint has always looked like. And that is not the case. And I just wanted to clear that up in the beginning. It was not like that. Flint was it was Buick City. At one point in the beginning of GM, every Buick in the country came off of assembly line in my hometown. Most of the factories in GM's lineup started in Flint and Detroit. And money was flowing like the Flint River just everywhere. Everyone had a great income. One of your parents or both of your parents worked at the shop. That's what we call GM, the shop. And things were good. You know, people got into fights like kids do, high schoolers get into fights, but there was no despair. There was no water crisis. There was no bleak beliefs about the city. Having come back recently, it hurts. It hurts to see the state that the city is in now, and without some proper regentrification, I don't see where it can, rise from the ashes like a phoenix on its own. So in Flint Town, this Netflix series is primarily about the police force, about the police force and their struggle to get ahead of the war on poverty, crime, drugs, guns, the blight that affects the city, that affects the citizens of the city more than anything. And so, growing up with a police officer for a mom, I knew pretty much all of the police officers at the force during her tenure. I would go to their parties. I still love cops. Hello. I would go to the parties. They would come to our house. Flint had a greater sense of community. During this phase, my mom walked foot patrol. And foot patrol was two officers together walking around maybe 100 blocks of neighborhoods. My mom knew all the parents. She knew who their kids were. She knew when they were in a part of town that they shouldn't be in. And everyone respected the badge. Today, it's the total opposite. The city has went from 500 police officers to 100 police officers for the entire city, which is now 100,000 people. Back then, we were close to 500,000. And with 500 officers, that was enough because, as I said before, money was flowing and everyone was living a better life. Now, money is gone, and the more dire the city becomes, the more it is affected by a bad element. And I won't even call them a bad element. There are no jobs and less opportunity. So those that are still here, they hustle. Well, what happens when you hustle? You grind. What happens when you grind? Well, you normally selling something you shouldn't be selling. What happens when you sell something you shouldn't be selling? You're probably a part of a squad. What do these squads have to carry and carry out? Guns and murders, turf wars. And I think the series Flint Town did a great job of explaining just what it's like now for these cops who are always worried that every day that they walk outside is going to be their last. Completely worried. So it touches on a few things. I'm just going to jump through the entire series. I'm not going to go episode by episode because I watched it as a whole. But it focuses on 5 main characters or officers and their stories and how their lives weave in and out this series. Well, 6 actually. I lumped in the Reeds as one. So there's Dion Reed and his mother who go through police academy to become new Flint police officers. There's Officer Frost, who's I believe been a police officer for 15 years, who has killed an unarmed black man in his history, and he lives with that and struggles with that. There's his girlfriend, Officer Bridget Belasco, who is she needed a job and there was openings at the police department and now she's a police officer. There's Officer Watson and Officer Ben Ritter. And then you have the chief of police, who I didn't consider one of these characters because he is the prominent figure, Tim Johnson, who I've met. I've been inside his home when he was building his house in the out in Grand Blanc, and I was with my mom when he experienced the loss of his first wife, who was murdered in Detroit in a robbery for her very nice wedding ring. And I mean, I know these people, so watching this series affected me in a familial and personal kind of place. So it talks about our mayoral race here. We have our first female mayor, Mayor Karen Weaver, who was appointed recently. She came in and put Tim Johnson in as the new chief and replaced the old chief. It talks about